about, we saw him in America, or Dylan saw him in America and didn't say nothing. We saw him, he saw us, and we was there. Man was ready for any kind of smoke. Man not playing none of that games, none at all. You know what I'm saying? But it's all good, respect to him. Like, he kept it moving. Remember, we came into Las Vegas, the Pacquiao and Broner fight. We're in like a VIP section. He looked at us, he kind of shuffled and kept it moving. I remember it quite clearly because I seen him and I was like, hope this guy don't try nothing. I'm gonna have to snuff this guy. Get me? And we was there. We was, we're not gonna be disrespectful. We're not gonna start. Sometimes it's talk. Sometimes until it ignites and then it's just what it is. You know what I mean? But like when he came here, I confronted him. We went to America. He should have confronted us in his own backyard and said, "Hey, what was all that talk about?" And then we didn't understood where it was. When he came to Brixton, I confronted him as a man, and we respectfully spoke, and it was cool. I respect what he's done in the sport of boxing. I'm not saying I can fight him in the ring. Bronze bomb he's done at 43 fights, but when we're fighting, man, if you can fight, and I've been around the sport and I've done many other fighting disciplines. On a street fight, I'm not sure it would work out the same way, but street fights, ring fights are totally different. But I mean, look, he didn't say anything. History. Dylan's duty to come and confront him and say something. It's kind of a bit of a mad one, but it is what it is. Look, nothing happened anyway. We saw us, we saw him. We kind of was looking at him to see what was going on, but he didn't kind of engage in any eye contact whatsoever. He kept it moving with it. He was with one of his little cronies. Excuse me. There was a few of us, and he kept it moving. And I said, well, I guess there's nothing more to that story. And it went on. But look, these guys, you know what I mean? They're all going to talk. Dylan's going to cuss him and so on. They're all going to have a bit of banter, tongue-in-cheek, whatever it have you. And they'll say things, put each other down. Deep down, they respect each other as boxing men. And,
Those are the words of Dean Whyte, as, of course, Wilder said that he saw Dillian Whyte and he saw those guys together and they did nothing. And Dean Whyte, of course, was explaining what happened. And he said, well, hey, when he was in the UK, I confronted him. We talked, we squashed it, we did whatever. I remember that. I remember that clearly. I remember when they did have, they had words. I don't know what the words were because whoever was filming that, okay, you didn't really see what they were talking about, like word for word, So I think the cameraman was too far away to get the audio of what they were talking about. But moral of the story is he was like, hey, I'm ready. And we were ready for whatever. And we wasn't going to come to his home country and talk shit at him, like, hey, I did that him. He could have done that with me. And he said he just looked and then he kept shuffling, I know Dean Whyte comes here frequently. I was with him the last time he was here. So I know he comes here, and what Deontay Wilder himself, regardless of what the people around him say, or do, and they talk or whatnot, they're not really that type of people. Like I've been telling you, they're not, Deontay Wilder is a very respectful guy outside. You know what I mean? The last time I think he's got in an altercation was with Dominic Breazeale, and I don't even think that involved that. I don't even think it started with him. It didn't even start with him. It started with, his brother, people around you. And if you notice these guys, these fighters, they're going to have entourages, and the entourage are the ones that's going to cap and start the shit that they end up getting into, more than likely. That's what happens. You know what I mean? Because, again, it wasn't the confrontation he had with Dominic Breazeale, for example, was not about Deontay Wilder at all. He just got into it because Dominic Breazeale got into it with Marcelos, Deontay's brother. So that didn't have really anything to do with that per se. Now, when you're dealing with, I've seen Deontay Wilder. I've seen him confronted by people, and he did nothing. He didn't talk and shit. He just smiled it off and went on about his business, and then he was a level-headed dude when it came to that. Matter of fact, I had footage on my on a video that I was there, and Wilder, he got confronted by a guy. He was like close in the stands, like maybe 10 feet from him, maybe. You know, and I mean, he was close enough to be like, hey, Wilder, you Wilder, whatever it was. And he called out Wilder, and Wilder just, smiled it off. So, in this situation, he did the same with Dillian Whyte and Dean Whyte. Now, to counter this, though, if Deontay Wilder said, hey, yeah, these guys, I saw them, they didn't do nothing. Well, okay, I think that was mutual. I'm not a guy for just like a bunch of shit talk. And then, because see, if you're going to talk a bunch of shit, you better be ready to back it up. And then that's what I didn't like. Hey, he did this and he didn't like that. Well, neither did you guys. You know what I mean? I don't know how a person's demeanor is. Maybe Wilder was waiting for him to say something. Like he said, like, well, they could have said something, which he could have. And let's talk about that for a minute. Dillian Whyte could have, hey, man, when you going to fight? That would have made some news. That would have made a buzz. That would have planted some seeds. Just like a Demetrius Andrade and Canelo. Canelo disrespected Andrade, but at the end of the day, Demetrius Andrade, he shot his shot. He made his statements. He did speak up for himself, and that was that. So that could have happened. And then now, knowing what we know, moving forward, that's exactly what Dillian Whyte should do. He should, next time he sees Deontay Wilder, it should be on. Just like Deontay has beef with Jarrell Miller with Deontay Wilder. Those guys, when they see each other, it's supposed to be some shit that takes place. Not, oh. Hey, man, there's Jarrell Miller. Oh. Or Jarrell Miller. Hey, man, it's Deontay Wilder. Oh. None of that. No. None of that. Okay? I think at the end of the day, since they know, hey, basically Deontay Wilder gave them instruction. Like, hey, you want to prove that you want to do something or you want something that bad? Hey, come see me. Come say something. Come confront me, right? Because that's what I'm expecting you to do. Because that's what I would do. But then that remains to be seen too, so we don't know that either, right? Let me give you guys an example for wrapping this up. I think Dillian Whyte should pull a Shannon the Cannon or some type of confrontation. I think Shannon Cannon was good. That's why Shannon Cannon rejuvenated his career. You know what I mean? Because he followed Klitschko around all over the place. Those videos went viral. People know who Shannon Briggs is. Two-time heavyweight champion of the world, Shannon the Cannon. Okay? Been in there with a gang of people, right? And that resurrected his career for what it's worth. He's got in promotions, movie parts, etc. You know what I mean? Hype jobs. And, that rejuvenated his career. I think Dillian Whyte should do the same thing. Right? And fights normally, sometimes these fights happen because of that. Like, we don't know what's really going to eventually happen with Demetrius Andrade and Canelo, but if Demetrius Andrade keeps beating people and he starts fighting the right type of people, he will deserve a shot at El Cinnamon, Canelo. Okay? And those confrontations work because it shows that, hey, I'm not, you're showing that I'm not scared of you and this is what I want from you. And I think you're this and I think you're that. Think about what Erislan de Lara did, and this is where I'm going to close. He walked on stage dressed up in his suit because he was there at the fight when Canelo beat Alfredo Angulo. And he walked on stage. They let him on stage. Everything was cordial. And he got the mic, and he said to Canelo Alvarez in Spanish, hey, when are we going to fight? We fought and beat the same guys. When are we going to fight? And Canelo didn't, because he was too close to him to really not respond that way. And I guess he was trying to see what the fans were going to say, this, that, and the other. But guess what? That fight happened. But that fight would have never happened, people, if Erislan de Lara would have stayed quiet and stayed put. Food for thought. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Dean Whyte saying that, hey, when we saw you, you did nothing. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.